Welcome in, Who Dat Nation. Hey, New Orleans Saints are back at 500. And to celebrate, because it is the season, we're going to first discuss the Atlanta Falcons blowing a 7-point lead and losing to the Carolina Panthers 9-7. Now, while Tampa Bay does go to win this weekend, this is actually very, very big for us in New Orleans to have Atlanta lose. Obviously, you want the New Orleans Saints to win. And they did, and we're obviously going to focus the entirety of the show on that. But briefly, we're going to mention how the New Orleans Saints won and the Atlanta Falcons blew a lead to a team that had one win. And I said last week that beating the Carolina Panthers was not going to be a game where I just went, okay, I believe in the New Orleans Saints now. It just wasn't going to be one of those games. Atlanta lost to that same team that I just talked about. So Atlanta moves to 6-8. New Orleans will move to 7-7, as will, by the way, give you a quick recap of the NFC South. Sadly, playing up in Lambeau did not play to Green Bay's advantage, as they are going to lose. They're going to fall to 6-8, which technically does also help New Orleans from a wild card perspective. But Tampa Bay moves to 7-7. They will currently sit in first place in the NFC South, with New Orleans second, a half game behind because of our previous head-to-head where they beat us. But more importantly, the New Orleans Saints are victors over the New York Giants, playing great defensive ball and arguably the best game of Derek Carr's Saints career, and arguably the only game that I've seen this year that made me go the entire Saints offense played complete. Even though it's not their highest scoring game of the season, it felt like a pretty good run. First half, few missteps, penalties, obviously an issue. We'll talk about all those different things here. But let's get a hoot out to those who are in the chat live with us as we celebrate this big W. Black Koshiomi, good to see you. DJ Twigger, Rainey, Steve B, Randall, good to see you. Trees, AJ Gaines, Saints Garcia, DJ Twigger, Jimbo Bruno, Mac Tazino, Timothy Russ, Lawrence Dillon, Demetrius James, Nikki DeFish, Raheem Gillion. I am JJ Martin, Bayou VG, Miss Jennifer Brown, Shane O'Max, Scrimp Max, and High Rise 54. Everybody else coming on in. Who dat to you? Hope you're having a great day. Now, I will say that what I said last week is a little bit different to this week. Last week, I said that I would not leave that game confident. I just wouldn't. I would not leave last week confident that this team has shown me anything just yet. Well, beating a team that was, trending in the right direction, had won 3 games in a row. I mean, they are 5-9 now, probably taking them out of playoff contention, but they're definitely pushing in that direction. They were a very good playing football team the past month. And the New Orleans Saints not only beat them, but they beat them very soundly and showed that they are the, in fact, better team. They played to a high level, right? So you have now tied for first place in the division. Granted, if things were to end now, you would not have first place. You would be fighting for a wild card spot, actually. We'll talk about the ESPN playoff calculator for all those who enjoy that wonderful tool. It really is a lot of fun if you ever get bored to do the ESPN playoff tool. But right now, the New Orleans Saints would be the 7th seed, without the weekend having finished its slate of games. But there's really not anything that can happen that would really change that. So as of now, because Cincy beat Minnesota, Minnesota's in at 7-7, but they also are struggling to maintain the momentum after when they beat the Saints. Big key is your New Orleans Saints are a playoff team at the moment and trending in the right direction. Let's hope it stays that way. So let's get back to the game, and then we're, of course, going to get your thoughts on the game. I thought the game, even though there are going to be some early punts, penalties going to be an issue. I did like how it started off. The first drive, obviously going 3 and outs, never something that you're happy about, right? You don't like 3 and outs. But that 68-yard drive leading to a touchdown on the second drive, I really liked. You held them to a field goal in their first attempt, then forced 3 straight punts, then a field goal, then punt, down. Defense had a fantastic job. We'll go into a little bit more depth of that in a bit. But I think the offense started off showing something. I even said it during the channel. Hey, Miss Jerry, good to see you. I said it during Twitter. Like, there's no way that Pete Carmichael's calling this game. We saw play action, motion, attacking the ball over the middle of the field. Derek Carr looked comfortable. Derek Carr was getting a lot of the throws that he likes to have. Example, those play action passes. This offense moved methodically. Now, it wasn't perfect. Again, you did have 3 early punts in that first half, and those can be a bit concerning. There were also some penalty issues. I want to bring up the penalties real quick because the New Orleans Saints is the most penalized game they've had in a while. 6 penalties for 58 yards. Anders Pete having a couple of really big ones that moved them back and hurt the offense's ability to kind of move. And Randy says, who's calling it then? I mean, I'll just say this. I don't think Pete Carmichael's been ripped of play calling duties, but if y'all watched when that first Derek Carr touchdown pass got thrown, how excited the Juwan Johnson TD pass got thrown, how excited he was with Ronald Curry coming out onto the field, the chest bump Derek Carr, and then him dapping up Dennis Allen. I don't know. Maybe Ronald Curry is starting to get more of an influence. All I can say is we saw a much better performance from the team possession by possession. Even though it started off a little bit rough, you do need to see more consistency. I mean, you've got a tough game coming up next week. We're going to talk about it. But you remember, we got the Rams literally coming up in 4 days. This is a short week, and the New Orleans Saints are going to have to be healthy and ready. You should have, hopefully, Chris Olave back for that game. But this is a game that, if you look at where the Rams have been, this is an opportunity for you to take advantage of that. Rams are actually just starting their game right now against the Commanders. So the Rams actually are going to have technically less rest time. They're going to miss it by about 4 hours, and every hour counts when we talk about those Thursday night games. So you didn't really start as well as you wanted, but overall, I thought that it was a really good job by the offense, showing some different things that we're not used to seeing consistently. And let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. Alvin Kamara getting 16 attempts. Alvin Kamara has again had another 100-yard from scrimmage game, 44 yards receiving, 66 yards rushing. That's easy math for you, ladies and gentlemen, out there. 110 yards from scrimmage. Love to see it. And then no touchdown. That's okay. Derek Carr throws 3 touchdowns. 1 to Jimmy Graham, 1 to Juwan Johnson, and 1 to Keith Kirkwood. Should be noted that Jimmy Graham has now tied the New Orleans Saints this year for receiving touchdowns with Chris Olave. And fun fact, put this out on Twitter, so I should be following me at @RevDeuceWindham. He is tied Deuce McAllister for 4th all-time in the most touchdowns, whether they be rushing, receiving, or return, in New Orleans history. He is now tied for 4th all-time with 55. So you now have got a pretty impressive little stretch here where you're actually using Jimmy Graham in the red zone. 2 receptions for 9 yards isn't a lot, but you're starting to see something over the past 3 weeks that we've been complaining about, and that is this number right here, red zone efficiency. New Orleans went 2 for 2 today. You'll take those numbers, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is one of the most complete games I've seen from the Saints. And it's not to say that the Saints have not had good games this season, because a lot of people will go back to, what was it? It wasn't week 7. Maybe it was week 6. It was when you played the Colts, right? When we talked about how well that team played, or even talking about the Patriots game, right? Let's use the Patriots game because they shut that team out. Here's the thing. Even then, against the Patriots, they went 3-4 in the red zone that game, which is fine, but that was a team that, like, you won because of your defense. They actually only had 17 first downs against the Patriots. I do remember that, and they, I think 33% of their third downs they converted. So they struggled versus the Patriots, right? Look at the Colts game. The Colts game was the highest scoring we've seen the Saints play, and yet they also 3 for 4 in the red zone, if I remember right, and they were about 50%. So this was a good showing from a team that was surging. Like, you know, the Indianapolis Colts were a team that had just lost their quarterback. It was Gardner Minshew. They had just lost Anthony Richardson. Whereas this is a team with the Giants that was trending in the right direction for them. So it's a huge win. Aaron, good to see you. So sadly, this W helps keep DA and PC around longer. I'm still hopeful, Aaron, that Ronald Curry is getting more and more of the sway, and he's part of the play calling, and because we've definitely seen a difference in the style today and what you had earlier in the week. Charles, appreciate your support. 24-24 says great efficiency by the offense. Defense looked great. looked elite. Juwan had a great game, great complimentary football. Let's win out. Still waiting for Jamal Williams, TD. You felt like they were trying to get him some of those opportunities. He did have 8 carries. He's mostly a short yardage situation back. But, yeah, to your point, they do need to get that man in the end zone, considering he led the NFL in touchdowns last year. But I really want to talk about the defensive side of things real quick, because the biggest thing for me, they have actually gone and adjusted the stat sheet from what we looked at earlier. It looks like they took away the half sack from Zach Bond and actually gave Passignon a 3-sack game. So shout out to Tano Passignon. One thing to note, they have been taking Cameron Jordan off the field on third down pure pass rush situations and putting in Zach Bond there. That is a change that they've started making. And then running a NASCAR-style package with Carl Granderson, Tano Passignon, Brian Brzee, and Zach Bond. We saw today 7 sacks for this New Orleans Saints team. Demario Davis recording 1. Fun fact for y'all, since y'all like stats, the Demario Davis has now gotten 6.5 sacks this season, tying his career high that he set last year. So getting another sack on top of that. Tano Passignon got 3 today. Not something you should probably realistically expect to happen a lot. What was happening a lot in this game, and this is not to take away from it, I think if anything, it just is explaining why it happened. The offensive line for the offensive line for the New York Giants was simply not able to manage well the twist and stunt game that the New Orleans Saints started using. And whatever it is about that speech, I don't know if y'all heard it during the broadcast, but Dennis Allen was putting out, gas cans for all the veterans. Like, hey, do you have enough in the tank to make it through this season? Well, Tano Passignon now has 3.5 sacks on the season. That is almost double what he had last year with New Orleans, and almost ties what he had the first year he was here with the team when he had 4. So, yes, it came in bunches in all one game, but you'll always take the sacks. Also need to give a shout out to Brian Brzee, who has 2. And I'm going to call him today, especially Brian Breezy, moving him up to 3.5 sacks on the season. For me, I said if he got anywhere from 4 to 6 as a rookie, I would be incredibly happy with his progression. And we're starting to see some of that progression. And to the point of 504 Hot Boy, 22 drives without giving up a touchdown is impressive. It is. Now, it's not as impressive when some of that was against the Carolina Panthers, but again, I don't want to discount this win. Usually, I will discount the wins. I'll try to be very pragmatic with y'all and say, hey, keep your head on a swivel. This one's maybe not as big as it seems. This win, to me, is big, right? Because you did beat a surging team that was moving in the right direction offensively, a team that was moving in the right direction in terms of takeaways defensively. The New Orleans Saints did not have any interceptions or fumbles given away this game, which is fantastic to see. And then they moved to 500. This was a marquee style game for them, that the only difficulty is that they have to play again in 4 days this upcoming Thursday. So be on the watch for a Thursday night football edition of the Who Dat Confessional podcast. Tuesday, we're going to try to quickly review the film, and then Tuesday, we're going to have our preview show to get ready for Thursday. So just kind of be on the watch for that. So we'll wait and see. Tragic is I sent the camera on Carmichael. It looked like he was just looking at the sheet but wasn't calling the play. I really don't know, Tragic. I hope one of the post gamers asked this. My guys Ross Jackson and Nick Underhill. I hope somebody asked that. I truly don't know. I'm not down there. Not this year at all. I have been before, but I'm not there right now. So I can't ask those type of questions. But what I can say is, this team did what they needed to do to win this game, and even though they didn't put up 30+, I would love to see them put up 30+. I wanted them to really kind of like drive in that foot into the neck, if you will. But overall, it's hard to argue the results. And then you're going to go against a team in the Rams this Thursday that, well, are playing for their playoff lives. So you can't come out of this game and go, wow, we won. You definitely got to keep it moving. Because if you don't, this team is simply not going to survive. Because Sean McVay-led Rams are nothing to shake a stick at. And Matt Stafford, no offense, Danny DeVito, Matt Stafford is a better quarterback. I mean, in my opinion, a much better quarterback than what you just faced. Better than what you faced the past 2 weeks. So there's definitely things on the horizon that you got to watch for. Again, LA is currently playing right now for for those curious. Stafford is 4 for 4, 37 yards. But a win is a win. Even with Tampa Bay winning, you're moving in the right direction. You control your destiny. We've said that a lot when the Saints were in their playoff mode. The Saints control their destiny right now, and that's a great spot to be in. And shout out to Demario Davis, man. 10 tackles a day, a sack, and just how that man is playing this well at 34, 35 years old. He's older than me, if I remember right. Which is wild because I couldn't do anything on the football field, and this man is still doing something. Yeah, he's 34 right now. He'll turn 35 for those curious January 11th. So what he's doing on the field right now is incredibly impressive. Last year, he was a second-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. This year, I think he deserves just as much. Also, for those that don't know, today with his 10 tackles, he now has over 100 tackles. This is an awesome stat for 7 straight seasons. And it would have been 8, but in 2016, he finished the year with 99 tackles. So 7 straight seasons with 100-plus tackles. Absolutely phenomenal. Not to mention he has tied his career high in sacks. Now he just needs to get an interception like he did last year to really get close to those numbers. I think that he, again, deserves a Pro Bowl and maybe second-team All-Pro nod. Don't know if I could say he's the best linebacker in the NFL, but gosh darn it, he's doing well. He can go back to being the quarterback coach, I guess. I don't know. I think Ronald Curry's doing a great job. Coming off a big win. I like it, right? Like, we talked about this last year. The Saints have won 7 games now. And a common theme that we've brought up throughout this year is, well, where were the Saints at this time last year? Well, the Saints are, through 14 games, 7-7. Last year, they won the final 4 or final 3 of their last 4 games. If you went in and just talked about where they were at through 14 games, this team had 5 wins. At this point, 5. That's it. And they were coming off that awful loss to Tampa bye week, and then they won in Atlanta. That was Week 15 for New Orleans last year. Now, they would go on to then beat Cleveland. They would go on to beat Philly and then lose to Carolina in the final week of the season. But the New Orleans Saints are 2 wins ahead at this point of where they were last year. And I would say last year's schedule was a little bit harder, but it wasn't exactly like a gauntlet. I'm sorry, it wasn't. I mean, Tampa last year, not really a gauntlet. I guess it's a gauntlet, I guess. Whatever. Atlanta definitely wasn't a gauntlet last year. Carolina wasn't a gauntlet last year. Pittsburgh wasn't. Vegas obviously wasn't. No offense. I mean, I've been offending you all year, Derek Carr, but no offense, Derek Carr. And then Philly didn't have Jalen Hurts, and yes, that absolutely matters. And Cleveland obviously was kind of a walkover. So this is a year that they're doing better. Now, for those who are very anti-Dennis Allen, I understand that. Yeah, but I've already said this, and I told y'all this. Dennis Allen's not going anywhere after this year, no matter what. Pete Carmichael very well might be out the door. Derek Carr, he's here next year too. Dennis Allen, he's here next year. But offensively, you could see a change. And I know that there are Saints fans out there who are wanting the team to lose just so those guys get fired. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I said this last week. Even if the Saints lost their final 4 games, they weren't going to fire Dennis Allen. But that doesn't mean you can't have success, especially if you can get an offensive mind that comes in and starts changing things. And I thought you saw a very efficient football game today. We did. Belo says that one felt good. It was a complete game and the D was lights out. We're going to need that momentum going forward. Absolutely. You got a short week this week going against the Los Angeles Rams, who are currently playing right now, leading 3-0 over the Washington Commanders. You got a very, very big one that you got to worry about. And also Tennessee and Houston trying to end in a tie right now. That's a little wild. But as a Saints fan, let's go over the team stats. New Orleans got 20 first downs. I love to see that, especially the 11th of the year, because we saw some consistency through the air. Now, they only had 296 total yards, which is okay with me. I'm fine with that. It's not anything super impressive. They definitely scaled it down in the second half after they built a big lead. But if you look at, more importantly, the average yards per gain, over 5 yards per is pretty damn good. You'll take that. And passing 7 yards per, you will take that. Penalties were an issue, something you want to see get cleaned up. I will go ahead and acknowledge that the Paulson Adebo penalty was about the dumbest penalty I've seen called this year. That was a beautiful tackle. That was absolutely insane. I was absolutely ridiculous. So beyond that, though, everything was good. One time of possession, what you're looking for. Cool Sports Poems is a good win. Still on its own Derek Carr and the coaching staff. What do you think about Frank Wright and Kirk Cousins next season? Kirk Cousins is not really any different than Derek Carr. I know people don't really like to hear that, but he's really not that much different than Derek Carr. So, no. And again, DA is not going anywhere. So unless Frank Reich is coming in as the offensive coordinator, and to be honest, I'd probably rather give Ronald Curry a shot. That's just me. I'd probably rather give Ronald Curry a shot. Derek Carr is a mid-tier quarterback, just like Kirk Cousins is. Now, you can argue Kirk Cousins is a better mid-tier quarterback, but you can't move off Derek Carr after 1 year with that contract. It's a 2-year minimum. So you're not going to have him and Kirk Cousins. And yeah, that's just kind of like where you're at the moment. Not trying to be a negative Nancy. I'm just letting you know, this is not something you can do. Carr's got at least 2 years that he will be playing in New Orleans. It is possible. It truly is. I'm being legitimately serious. It is possible that third year he's gone. That is possible. But I would say that if you're getting the Derek Carr that you got today due to efficient play from everybody else, then you're good. It really just comes down to execution, and it really comes down to how good is the play calling. And I think the play calling today was really good. I think that there are moments that it sputtered, but the play calling was good. The play calling was good. And it was executed well. The penalties are going to be the biggest thing. So, yeah. I feel good. It's going to be positive about the Saints. Peace must found one of Peyton's old clipboards. I'll be honest, JH. I don't know. I'm actually going to message one of my guys right now just to see. Just to see. I know he's busy, but in case he sees it, I'm going to message Ross just to see. Hey, man, you got to ask. Did Pete let RC call? All right, we'll see if it gets answered. I've missed it. I'm going to go check real quick on like Nick Underhill's feed and Brooks' feed, see if they've said anything. But I mean, I don't know if anybody's even asked that or thought to ask that, but it really felt like Ronald Curry had more of a had much more of a impact in this game, or at least they were more vocal, and you saw them more. And maybe that means something, maybe it doesn't. But I would love to see it change. I would love to see it change. Really was a good win. This is the first game in a while that I felt this complete. Exactly. Like, I know a lot of people go to the Colts game, but man, this game just felt complete. Offensively, you did start off with a couple of slugs, but I think a lot of that is due on penalty. If we go by the playlist, you can kind of see how New Orleans starts things off. So you get that field goal there for New York. Then you get that short pass, incomplete to Moreau. Then you get that 4-yarder, you punt on a 3-and-out. 3 straight passes. I've always complained about that. That was a Sean Payton thing. It's a thing here. But, yeah, then you got that sack by Demario Davis. Love to see it. Get back, though. You have AK, little 4-yard pass, 6-yard pass. We got a first down. AK 11, good. Kamara right in for no gain, making it tough. Then there was a timeout. There's the big one. Bam, touchdown. This was a very good, methodical drive. Very efficient. Like that. When you got the ball back again, AK for 9, then you had a run for 8, then you had another good run, and then you had that sack that really, kind of hurt the team, really brought them back into a tough position, end up having a punt. But it was on the move, right? It's just one of those things that happens, that you saw good balance. You saw using your playmakers. Alvin Kamara had some great runs this game. And you saw the ball getting spread around. A big thing for me that we used to always love that Drew Brees did is look at the amount of receivers that Derek Carr targeted, right? Kamara got 5, but Juwan Johnson got 2. Rashid Shaheed got 3. A.T. Perry, who had a phenomenal catch for about 19 yards. Absolutely beautiful. But you had Bowden getting catches. You had Moreau, Jimmy Graham. Yes, count them. That is 4 tight ends because Taysom Hill down here had a short one. Keith Kirkwood. The ball was spread out. I think it was a very, very good design. Hopefully the play action and the screen game stay because that was a big part of, I think, this team's success was seeing the play action, but also utilizing the screen game in key situations, which is something that made the New Orleans Saints so good for so long. It was great to see that back in action and that consistently. And I also love the 28 rushing attempts. I really don't care as much about the yards per carry. Sure, everybody wants yards per carry, but hell, they held Saquon Barkley to 9 carries for 14 yards. I'll take that all day long. And Danny DeVito only ran it 4 times. Like, this defense finally found a way to contain and pressure. Now, they did it against a basically rookie quarterback, and it's easier to rattle those guys and confuse them with coverage. You're going to have a tougher test against Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford this upcoming weekend. But that said, this upcoming Thursday, but that said, this is what you want to build upon. It was actually a great job. I even love the Taysom Hill throw attempt. You did not get as much Taysom Hill that I would have liked to have seen. Again, this was not a perfect game, but I do think that we saw some really good stuff. I really do. I think we did see some really good stuff. You should be happy after this one. Like, you should be excited. Like, I understand the long-term repercussions. Not many people want to be confident in this out, but you should be happy as a Saints fan. The Dome was fun to be in, right? The crowd was electric. The Saints won a convincing win. I mean, you have to be happy about that, in my opinion. You just need to be happy. Enjoy what you got, because, man, you've got 2 good wins and you're going into it, hopefully a third. And no matter what, you're moving in the right direction at the moment. Will that continue? Obviously, we'll just have to wait and see. But right now, you're doing exactly what you need to do, which is fantastic. I'm happy. You should be happy. Hopefully you're happy. And the New Orleans Saints come out of this a winner. Short week. Just to let you know, Week 16, you're playing this Thursday. So if you got Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free on there. You got Amazon Prime Thursday night game in LA. Now, local time is going to be 7:15 for us, 5-something for them. Then you have a long week, which hopefully benefits the Saints. Hopefully, you have basically a mini bye week to prepare for the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers this upcoming week will play the Jaguars on Sunday as the midday game. You hope the Jaguars can beat them. You're hoping that. But you have a mini bye week to go into Tampa. And then you will wrap up the season with the Atlanta Falcons at home. Tampa game is in Tampa, but you will wrap up Week 18 at home. So this next slate of games, even if you lose to LA, which I don't want you to, it is a short week. Those are tough games. You've got the final 2 games of the season, which will determine the New Orleans Saints' future this season and whether they make the playoffs or not. And I'm excited about that. Just keep in mind that the Bears play the Falcons next week, and you also are looking around the league at other games. I'm sorry, that's not next week. That's next week. The Falcons are going to be playing the Colts. So you're obviously rooting for the Colts. You also are going to be rooting for the Titans over the Seahawks. You're going to be rooting for the Cardinals over the Bears. The Cowboys-Dolphins game actually going to be a lot of fun to watch. Ravens-49ers doesn't really affect us, but you do want the Giants to lose. Again, we're talking about playoff seeding. So all these things are games to keep an eye out for. And then you want the Lions to beat the Vikings. So, yeah, buddy says enjoy it now because if DA is coach next year, we'll be back in the same boat this year with a harder schedule and more losses. We'll have to wait and see, yeah, buddy. But I'll be honest, man, I'm focusing on this year, not next year. Wait and see. Because I'll also say this. If the Saints have a better offensive coordinator because Pete Carmichael is literally at the bottom of the league, if they just had a mid-tier offensive play caller, that can change the amount of wins, losses that you have each week. It really can. So we'll see what New Orleans does this offseason. But right now, you're on the path to the playoffs. Right now, like at this moment, you're a playoff team. At this moment, you're the 7th seed as of how all the games have finished. Now, we can do a quick I don't know how that Bears game is going. How did that end up ending? Because it just ending. So Houston actually ended up winning. So give Houston the W on that one. The Bears and Cleveland game. Cleveland ends up winning that one, which technically helps out New Orleans because any NFC loss helps out the Saints. You have a couple of others there. But as you can see, the Saints are in the playoffs right now as the 7th seed. It's the weakest seed, and they'd have to go play Dallas. But as of right now, your New Orleans Saints are a playoff team. And I'm going to be excited about that. I'm going to be excited about that. He was getting some praise from John Vilma tonight on more than one occasion. I heard a lot of that, Vlad, but I also saw a lot of emotion from Ronald Curry. So we'll see. I'm shocked our offense looks as good as it did. It had to be Curry calling plays. Again, I'm very curious. I sent out to Ross to ask that question. We'll see if anybody brings it up. But Ronald Curry just feel like, to me, I want to believe that he had more influence in this game. I really do. I really want to believe that he had more influence in this game, because there was a point in this game where Derek Carr just pointed directly at Ronald Curry after a big play. And I want to believe Ronald Curry is getting more influence in New Orleans, and that's part of the offense getting a little bit more consistent. I want to believe that. I can't say it for certain because I haven't seen it like officially stated anywhere, but I want to believe it. And I will take Derek Carr throwing 80%, 3 TDs, and 220 yards every day of the week. I don't need him to be top 5. I just need this offense to be consistent, decent, and this defense to be able to play with a lead. And they played with a lead today, got 7 sacks. Wish they would have got some interceptions, but 7 sacks, man. I will just leave today very, very happy. Who dat to you still, Bill? Good to see you. Pete isn't at the bottom of the league. Oh, yes, he is. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't others that are not also bad. So, yeah. All righty. This has been good. I'm happy. What's Jimmy's catch to TD ratio? Basically, he's at 1 catch, or every 2 catches, one's a touchdown currently. You say he's at the bottom? He is at the bottom. He legitimately is at the bottom. I guess it depends on what analytic you want to use, TJ, but Pete Carmichael is literally one of the worst play callers in the NFL. You're saying the offense is statistically in the middle. I'm not saying the offense is at the bottom. I'm saying Pete Carmichael as a play caller is at the bottom. And you can track some of those by how he uses motion, how he uses certain types of plays, etc., that he doesn't do. He is statistically at the bottom. He is awful. But the New Orleans Saints won, so we're going to keep it positive. Remember, Tuesday, we're going to be previewing this Thursday game because we have a Thursday night game, y'all. Who dat? God bless. I appreciate every single one of you. Congrats on a win. Who dat to you? Deuces. We'll see you. We outie.